Before we go, apologies for the precautions. I only ever risk so much. Sometimes it's just safer to shove the barrel of a Malorian between a troon's ribs, even if he is on your side. It's nothing personal. No hard feelings, I hope.
Odd introduction, but nice meeting you too, Reed.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 66 of the Video Game Podcast, PlayStation Pals.
I can't believe you didn't make an Order 66 joke.
No, or like some kind of like horror joke, like 666. Could have gone that route.
Yeah,
too.
you could have went Satan, I guess, if you're thinking that way. But
It's
sorry to derail you.
No, you're good. But who's that talking? Well, it's the songbird to my Solomon Reed, John. I'm your host, Nick, and again, this is PlayStation Pals. Now, John, since we last talked, I have some more movie recommendations for horror movies because I felt I wasn't prepared, even though I asked the question.
Yeah, you dummy.
So I have some recommendations.
Okay.
Happy Death Day. I wonder if you've seen any of these. Happy Death Day.
Okay.
Which is Groundhog's Day meets a slasher film.
Yeah, I've heard that's one of those. Well, this might be a theme with all your movies, but like it's better than it should be, kind of thing. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, great. I got The Babysitter. It's on Netflix.
Is that the Jennifer or the Megan Fox one?
No, it's
Okay.
not Megan Fox. There is another female influencer in it. I forget her name, but it's not Megan Fox. The original Scream, of course. Cabin in the Woods. That is one of my favorite horror movies of all time because I wouldn't even spoil the premise. You just watch it.
Yep. Yeah, do not say any. That is a movie that thrives off of the less you know. Similarly to Barbarian, which I didn't mention last week, but anyway.
Let's see. There you go. And Cloverfield.
The original?
Yeah.
Not 10 Cloverfield Lane?
Both.
Oh.
Both. Cloverfield's really good, and then 10 Cloverfield Lane is really good too.
Okay.
If you want to see John Goodman being pretty evil, 10 Cloverfield Lane's good. And then I also have The Mist. I forgot about The Mist is a good one too.
Horrible ending. It's a good ending. It's just, I feel for that guy.
Yeah. And it's funny because he eventually would go on, the guy who made that movie would go on to make The Walking Dead, so there's so many Walking Dead actors in that movie.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. While we're on the topic, and I'm just thinking now that my brain's moving, gotta throw a shout out to The Shining. I love The Shining.
Yeah. Yes. There's not a lot of good Stephen King horror movies, but yeah, The Mist, The Shining.
I think people so you talk to certain people, they'll argue there's not a lot of good Stephen King books either. Like he's one of those. I think people like him or don't. Famously doesn't know how to end stories very well, but is really good at setting them up.
Yeah, like Cujo. Did you ever watch Cujo?
Nope. No, the only Stephen King movie I think I've seen It, and I've seen The Mist, and Shining. I think
There's probably so many.
Oh, there's so many.
You might have watched one and not even realized it.
I think I saw the really bad. I think it was called Dreamcatcher.
Yes,
with Morgan. Did we mention that?
Yeah,
on
we
the
talked
show?
about it on the show.
Weird movie to have been brought up twice, but yeah, that movie was really bad, and I remember it was just so jarring because Morgan Freeman plays a bad guy, which he's I feel like he's like everybody's uncle. You can't have him.
Yeah.
Mean, so.
So yeah, there are some more recommendations. So if you are looking for things to watch, any of those,
Yeah, I mean, feel free. I'll talk about horror movies all day, every day. Like I've mentioned it before, but movies are my other kind of passion. I think video games and movies go hand in hand pretty easily. So yeah, man, horror movies are probably my favorite genre. So I could keep going, but
yeah, I need
alas,
to watch.
this is video games.
Yes, and we'll be talking about horror video games later. A little tease there. But, I need to watch more horror movies in October.
Yeah, I can tell we have a kind of a different vibe with them, for sure. You like the campy, the silly, the cliche, tropey, and I kind of like the more psychological kind of like heady type stuff, which most people probably just...
Yeah, you weren't into the Megan craze last year, were you?
Megan Fox? Or no, the dumb doll. No, I wasn't. No. I did hear, speaking of movies that were better than they should be, though, I think it got like a 90-some% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So like it did what it set out to do pretty well. But
yeah, it's the performances are really good. They kind of pulled back on the violence and the deaths because they wanted to get the younger people in there. So
the PG-13 effect.
That's kind of the weak part of it is the kills.
I'll tell you what pisses me off, though, Nick, is when you try and search something and they get cute with titles. Like, I'm trying to find Megan. They're like, no, it's a 3 instead of an E. Like, get out of here. Just let me find the thing I'm looking for. Stupid.
Yeah, but there you go. Bunch of good recommendations here. So let's move into how the show works. And this is how it works. John and I can both bring up the 3 things to the show for a total of 6 things. It can be a video game we're playing, a news topic, just a general topic in general. It can be our video game character battle royale, which we're going to continue today. And it could be an email to PlayStationPalsPod@gmail.com or a Twitter DM at PSPalsPod or a comment on our YouTube page at PlayStation Pals. Any of those things, we feel like talking about it. If you want us to talk about something in particular, reach out to any of those channels. So John's going to kick things off. What are you bringing first, John? Some good news?
No, I'm the pessimist of the show, Nick. No, not good news, not bad news, really not super fun news, but something that I think deserves a conversation. And I'm curious to kind of get your overall thoughts on it because, it's one of those big topics that, could just be smoke and mirrors, could really be nothing, but I think there is more to it. And so I wanted to kind of just get your opinions. But I've been noticing a real startling trend lately, and it's really been all year, if not a little bit longer than that, but it seems like it's been ramping up a lot lately. And it ties into a lot of the conversations we've had on this show about, the economics of the video game industry and what that really means on a broader sense of things. But I wanted to hone in a little bit specifically on live service games and just how they kind of affect the economy, and notably how many of them seem to be in trouble and perhaps making and spelling trouble for a lot of these other companies beyond just even the scope of their games. So I wanted to kind of just start off here, Nick, is the video game industry is a $187 billion industry, right? It's huge, crazy industry. And this year we saw 6,100 workers get laid off. And that stat and that headline alone just kind of gets me to start thinking, right? We seemingly have this incredibly healthy, incredibly vibrant economy in the video game space that's growing, that's gaining more players every single year. But we're still seeing kind of these unprecedented amount of layoffs. And when you start to look into it a little bit more, I think you can kind of start to see trends on this, right? We know that the live service game has been one of the biggest genre changes in the past couple of years, for good and for worse. But I personally think, and I'm going to keep beating this drum, that I think that they are causing more harm than good. And just going to go through some of the bigger live service games right now just to kind of set the groundwork a little bit. So I took a look at some of the biggest live service games, and I wanted to see how much money these games made every single year, right? Because these companies are chasing and chasing and chasing. And by the way, Nick, if I start ranting, just start screaming or something, and I'll stop talking, okay? So I took a look at these, right? Destiny 2 from Bungie, $200 million a year. Genshin Impact, $4 billion in the last 2 years. Apex Legends, $2 billion in 3 years. Rocket League, a little over $1 billion. Final Fantasy 14, $500 million a year. And you even got games like Warframe, $200 million a year, very respectable. Then you got Fortnite. Fortnite makes $6 billion a year, $26 billion total. So I wanted to say all that because it's kind of to frame the conversation around why these companies are really chasing these dragons, right? Because on the flip side, you think about Sony, you think about what they're doing on their side, right? Making games like The Last of Us 2, making Horizon, God of War, things like that. Unfortunately, Last of Us 2 only made about $300 million in profit, and that's off, and it had a $200 million budget. So made about $500 million total. You walk away with $300 million. When you start comparing it to these huge games, it really starts to kind of paint a picture of like, oh, I get why these teams are chasing it. I get why this is, every company's wet dream out there to have one of these games, and maybe they're willing to sustain losses and misses and misses and misses because if you just get one, you have enough you have enough in your tank to fund so many different projects, because that's how these companies typically work, right? You make a game, you get a profit, you transfer those funds into the next project, you keep building, you keep building, you keep building. But we've created this now new ecosystem of these live service games where we have to continuously put resources into it. We have to continuously have development teams working on them, new content, new pushes, new updates. And it just is, I personally think, and I'm going to keep scouring the internet for every point I can, and I'll bring it to the show when I can. But I think it's really starting to cause some damage, because again, this isn't all live service related, but it is just, I think, a bigger discussion as the economy of a whole in the industry, right? We're talking about 6,100 people laid off this year. We're talking about huge publishers, Electronic Arts, 1,000 people, Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red, 30 people, Blizzard, Roblox. We just saw the release of Immortals of Avium from Ascendant Studios, which is a new, it was a new team from EA. Their first game didn't get great reviews. Guess what? They then had to lay off half the team. We're just living.
Same with Telltale.
Same with Telltale, exactly. Volition, we just saw the entire team get closed because they had one game that they made that wasn't up to snuff, and it caused an entire closure of a studio. And then, of course, we got Naughty Dog with reports of them laying off all their contractors. It's even coming into our own house with Sony, where these, we kind of view them as having this iron tight, buttoned up, amazing production line where they can kind of get projects from start to finish in a reasonable amount of time. You see what Insomniac does, but it's even hitting what I would call Sony's crown jewel studio with Naughty Dog. And it's just getting to a point where, I think the saturation point has been reached well long ago. And I don't know if there's any more money to be made out there, but we're now just competing with people's time. There is only so many games that can exist in this space. And I'm sure people who are listening to the show have heard that same argument from many people in the past. But I kind of thought of this interesting corollary, Nick, and I want to know if you feel the same. And then I have a couple questions for you. I kind of view the games as a service push these past couple years almost like, do you remember the MMO push kind of in the early 2000s with when World of Warcraft came out and it blew up the industry? It completely changed companies' opinions on how money can be made, how we can keep these players engaged for a long period of time. And it really started to seem like there was just companies just like trying to push out 1 million of these things at a time. Yep. And we don't remember most of them because they were either garbage, they were good games that people just didn't have time for or whatever, but it just got swallowed up by World of Warcraft. And then eventually a little bit later you would start to see, kind of some other ones gain steam a little bit. But it kind of seems like that because an MMO is a game where you need an incredibly high amount of time to get invested into it, right? And so inherently, I feel like you're now targeting a very niche demographic of like 10 to 22-year-olds or 10 to 21-year-olds. These are the only people that really have that amount of time to sink into the game. Unfortunately, I would love to, play games for hundreds of hours, but I can't anymore. And so this is a market where there's only a specific amount of time, a specific amount of players, and there's just more and more and more and more and more coming out to the tune of, these teams that have talented developers have money coming in. They're making games like Rumbleverse and what was that dodgeball game that, Knockout City, and these other games at Babylon's Fall, that just come and go and come and go. And while inherently I was kind of thinking like that doesn't really matter to me, but we now know that Sony is spending 60% of their development budget on live service games. So my question for you, Nick, is it a mistake for Sony to chase the live service initiative at this point? And do you feel that it's worth it to take the resources away from these teams that could be making smaller profits but adhere to the things that kept us here in the first place?
I almost feel like we're like the wrong people to ask because
we are, but that's
I guess we do play Rocket League. Like that would be probably the closest. Well, I did play Rocket League, but not anymore. We don't play these games in any kind of like regularity. We don't have like friend groups that are playing it. You have your one buddy that you play with, and then I just play them whenever I'm just not feeling like turning my brain on and playing a single player game. Mm-hmm. But so to me, of course, it's a waste. I would much rather see Sony invest what made them the market leader that they are in the current gen console space, and that is their single player output. the Uncharted's, the God of Wars, Spider-Man's, games like that. But like you mentioned, with all those games making, those live service games making so much money, it's so hard to ignore. And it's funny, my first thing in my notes is like, this is nothing new. It's just like when MMOs, like you mentioned, with World of Warcraft, and then MOBAs were the next one with League of Legends and Dota, and kind of the top ones survive, like and some get like Smite, kind of exist, but don't really get talked about a lot. But a lot of those games fail. Like even Heroes of the Storm, a Blizzard-backed MOBA, which I forget. It's a multiplayer online battle arena. Yeah. That failed too. So this is nothing new. So now that you have obviously PUBG, now Fortnite, and everything else, and Warzone and everything, there's so many of these things that it's not even just like when you think of like just the resources to maintain a live service game. It's just like you're competing for people's time. Like who has the time to play more than one of these games at a time?
Nobody. And then so your only option is to rip them away from that game.
Yeah.
And good luck ripping somebody away from who's spent $1,000 on Fortnite in the past 4 years.
Exactly.
There's no chance. You can't do it. You're not going to get me to abandon my PlayStation library to go on to Steam because they have slightly better sales. I've created this here.
It's kind of like the Phil Spencer argument when he said that Xbox lost a worse generation because there was so much money and time put on the PS4, Xbox One era, which they lost pretty badly, that it's going to be hard to rip people away. And the same thing here. Yeah, if I have all the skins in Warzone, why am I going to go to
Apex Legends?
Well, Apex Legends, or what's the Concord? Or Bungie's probably, Marathon's probably got the best shot because it is Bungie and they're very successful and they know what they're doing. But so I think it's a gamble, and it's a gamble you're most likely going to lose. Like I think when Sony invests in these things, you should probably be taking the worst outcome going to happen. It's just it'll come out, it'll maybe be hot for a few weeks, and then it'll go away.
And that's my fear because, Sony's fortunate, and I think it was a very good purchase to buy Bungie when they did. I think they saw that the team had value beyond just making games, and that was good to do. But I don't know, man. I have, I'm a pessimist, as we established, right? And so I have this scenario in my head where just there is no formula to make these games. There's no way to know what's going to catch and what's not. You can rely on your development teams that are skilled and are great at making games to put out a product. But again, we're talking with a different currency right now when you talk about these games, and time is just. There's no way to quantify and value it. So I just worry that, Sony's pumps all this money into it. Concord comes out, people go, okay, cool, but like what's the next thing that's going to, really give me the narrative itch that I strive for with you guys. And I just really hope that they can balance it all. But I wanted to just kind of keep Go ahead.
You think well, it's funny. You think like their best advantage is to leverage their strength, and that's their IPs, right?
Yep.
So one would think that Last of Us Factions would be a slam dunk. And for some crazy reason, even though Naughty Dog was very successful with Factions as part of The Last of Us 1, 10 years ago, like this game cannot make it to the finish line to where we can even see it.
Crazy.
Like,
that's a good segue, Nick. I was going to ask you, will we ever see Factions?
I do, but I think it'll be part of a Last of Us Part 2 remastered and be much more toned down as an extra incentive for people like John and I to spend $70 to play that game again.
Yeah. Really kind of like lessen the amount of load that goes on the live service business model, put in a couple things in there here and there. Maybe, if I believe Bungie said that there was no long-term way to keep people engaged and keep people spending money, which was why they had to shelve it. So, you lessen a lot of that stuff, put it into Last of Us 2. You make a small section of the fan base happy. It's there, and you can move on with it. And
you can probably chop it up, right? Like if it was a live service game, they probably had like a pretty good content stream being planned. And you just take whatever's existing, you release a base game of Last of Us Factions, and then you just add the extra maps and just over the next few months. And
I could even see Naughty Dog going crazy and just retooling the whole thing and be like, we already have Bones, we're just gonna make another single player game with what we have here. But yeah,
they're doing that.
I do think we see factions too, but it's just I'm gonna keep beating this drum. Like, sometimes you just have a feeling in your bones and you just kind of gotta keep chasing it because something doesn't smell right, and I'm telling you guys, something does not smell right. Going all the way back to Sean Layden before he left Sony saying that games are getting too expensive to make. I think he really was onto something there. There's reports that Sony Santa Monica is now working on a rumored half-step God of War, which is just might be the way that we need to go moving forward, where we have either 8-year development cycles or we have smaller games, and we need to train ourselves to kind of accept that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, I think it's smart to take the world and the assets and the engine you make and reuse that for a half-step game or some kind of sequel that's not as ambitious. Mm-hmm. But it's still like Miles Morales is probably perfect. Like all the work was already done. Like how much work did they have to do? A few new character animations. Obviously the mocap and voice acting and writing, but it's basically New York City reused, and that's probably why we're getting Spider-Man 2, so soon too. Like since 2018, we've 5 years we've gotten 3. So we're gonna have 3 Spider-Man games
with a Ratchet and Clank thrown in.
Yeah, with a Ratchet and Clank.
And I do personally hope that Sony kind of continues to do that. Like, obviously it's crazy important for the company to have a lot of money to be able to play with, to do what they need to, but businesses at this and economies at this scale, they're just such fickle things. I think more fickle than we all kind of realize. And just with the disruption that the subscription models are causing, both on PlayStation and Xbox's side, the disruption that live service is causing, I feel like it's a little bit too much volatility out there for everybody to kind of just be able to control it, and before something either pops or bursts, or we have to really kind of reevaluate how we just approach games.
And just the amount of games that are coming out as well. You mentioned Telltale and having layoffs,
Volition and
Volition.
Oh, I'm sorry, and Ascendant.
Yeah, Ascendant, the Expanse game and Immortals of Avium are just coming out in this super stacked years. It's like they can't even compete. That's why you're seeing all these games get out of the way. Alone in the Dark, Banishers of New Eden, Suicide Squad. It's like you can't release a middling game right now because there's just too many options. I fear for Alan Wake 2 because it's probably going to be a really good game, but it's like sandwiched between all these heavy hitters in this just giant month of releases.
I mean, you have to, at this point, be an 87 or higher on Metacritic or OpenCritic to really get, I feel like, that pop needed to break through the middling ground of games to be like, hey, look at me, I'm worth it. And I think Alan Wake will get there. I do think, just based on the press and what everybody's saying. But yeah, you either need to be this long-established IP or really be something special. And while I understand there are people out there that kind of wish Sony wouldn't rely so heavily on the third person over the shoulder kind of narrative adventure thing, it's like, you kind of need to have a compromise somewhere, and that might be the compromise.
But that's what we're talking about, though. There's such experts in this field. That's why they can all just go to what's the engine?
Decima?
The Decima engine. Why Sony Bend can release Days Gone and Horizon and Death Stranding and all these games that use the same engine because, it's the tools are there. It's the easiest way to make games, and then you have these teams that can work with each other to get the game out. It just makes development easier.
Yeah. I mean, Sony has always been very good with being forward thinking, I think, on that stuff. Even going back to the development of the PS5, I think Mark Cerny was thinking about, okay, how is this going to interact with this, though? And I'm going to be able to extract more power. You can see it kind of in their production pipeline, too. Be like, okay, well, if we establish this base here, then that's going to help us in the future, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of this thing I'm going to keep beating, this thing that I'm going to keep calling out when I see it, because I'm a fan of, as much as I'm a fan of playing games, I'm also just kind of a fan of the industry. I'm a fan of the way that the businesses interact and the way we consume this medium and whatnot. And I don't know, maybe I'm an old man shouting at clouds and I'm change, rawr, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like there's something's got to give, and I don't know what it's going to be.
So I was going to talk about this later, but CD Projekt Red released a documentary about making of Cyberpunk 2077 and Phantom Liberty, and one of the things the head of the studio said was like, yeah, they sold a lot of copies. They announced Cyberpunk sold 25 million and Phantom Liberty 3 million. Mm-hmm. But they say all that really does is, it pays for their current staff and funds their next game. Like They're not like swimming in money and like, hey, everything's great,
It makes sense why when Saints Row didn't meet expectations, they just had to fold. And that I think you could chalk that up to Embracer being a really, really bad parent company because they just buy everybody they can. But yeah, it's just it seems a little tight out there, a little tense in the development spaces, and kind of makes sense why I think a lot of companies are so okay with being bought up right now, because like, security, okay, thanks, yeah, I'll take that. I want the security, even if we have to take a little bit of a profit cut. But yeah, I mean, any other thoughts on kind of all that, Nick? I know I kind of probably diarrheaed out of the mouth a little bit, but
no, I mean, we didn't mention like one of the things that precipitated this conversation also was Hyenas.
Yes. Forgot about that one.
I forget who's the developer. They make
Creative Assembly.
Yes, they make.
Man, I'm good.
RTS games. Yeah, your mind's working today, not mine.
Ooh, got my decaf coffee.
But that game got canceled, and it's like rumored to be like one of the most expensive games Sega's ever funded.
Yeah.
And
that's another team that laid off some. They laid off some people.
And if you watch Hyenas, like the trailer, and you're like, that looks a lot like fair game. Like you're onto something. And like I said, I would. If Sony should be expecting these games not to do well, that's my thought. Even thinking of what was that launch driving game?
Drive Club?
Destruction All Stars.
Oh yeah.
That's another game that was probably I would consider that a live service game.
And for sure.
Just bombed, and not even in like a heavy time period of early PS5 ownership. It just couldn't get the player numbers. So.
Yeah, it's just the people, little too relying on trends. But as you said, though, that's always been the case of this industry. It's not like the movie industry where you can kind of turn around a movie in a year and a half while the trend's still going. It takes longer than that, and so we'll keep an eye on it, and hopefully some ships can get righted. I'm not dismayed over the future of Sony or anything by any stretch of the imagination. I know we're still going to get the games I want. I'm still going to be, there day one for a lot of the first party stuff. It's just, I hope whoever replaces Jim Ryan is a little more conventional, just to not push that ball further, right? You can keep it where it is if you need to, but like let's see what this crop does and then move forward, as opposed to like don't put all these plans.
Yeah, be a little smart and strategic about how you go about all this. And it seems like Sony, because of the studio acquisitions and then the PlayStation Showcase where they went so hard and new announcements being only live service games, that it's a little scary.
Yeah,
they should. Whatever their next big unveiling is, pull it back. Push the single-player games. Push that God of War half-step game, and pull back on the Concords, the fair games, the marathons. Just the even mix of both. They should be aiming to show probably equal numbers of both.
Because I'll be honest too, man. Like I'm so mixed on this. I've had this thought a lot. Maybe not a lot. That's a lie, but a little bit. I would love, I think, a live service shooting type game that I treat kind of like Rocket League, where like, I don't want to take up more of my Cyberpunk time, but if I can maybe half my Rocket League time and replace it with like something else that I can go in and have a nice feedback loop and, have some not overly because that's why I like Rocket League. It's simplistic, right? It's like it's easy. It's the same thing every time. I don't have to learn all these different systems, all these live service things. Like Destiny is just a headache when I jump into it.
Right.
I would love something, but
yeah, that's why I thought factions would be great.
Yeah,
right? Like you're familiar with the game, you've played it. It played really well. Last of Us Part 2 plays so well that you would think like, oh, hey, I'm gonna go play The Last of Us Part 2. But now my friends are joining me. Nick's joining me. When we're just gonna,
I'm gonna hit him in the face with this axe.
Yeah, we're gonna just go raid a base and then come back and say call it a night, and I just do that every other night.
Sick. Yeah, well, we'll see, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, since these decisions are always made so early, I mean, we're going to see so many next year.
Yeah.
But like I said, Foam Star's not going to make it.
We really should have like freaked out when we found out that Rocksteady was making a live service game, like a little bit more.
That's another one. Yeah, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, not going to make it.
Like that, Rocksteady, makers of the greatest received games of like an entire generation, and then what they're seemingly doing. Not going to judge it before it comes out. Might be great, probably won't be, but
But yeah, again, another thing is just these multiplayer or these storied single player studios, Rocksteady, Naughty Dog, Arcane, trying to release like a multiplayer live service game, then it's not easy. Like they all seem to be falling flat on their face.
Yep.
So
there's no formula for it, and so we'll see.
Yep.
That's all I got.
We'll see. All right. Moving on, we're bringing back the character battle royale again.
Woo.
This seems to be a very fun topic. I know I'm having fun.
I am too.
And we have some interesting matchups coming up. But let's talk about last week's matchup. We did get some fan feedback from Nick, producer of the show. Hey there, pals. Got to share my thoughts once again because this series is so fun to think about. For the Geralt-Pikachu fight, I would have to go with Geralt. I think Pikachu would give him some issues early on, but I feel like Geralt would end up using his sword to ground all the electrical attacks and use Erden to trap Pikachu and ultimately win. I believe John said that.
He is a monster hunter.
When it comes to Nathan Drake's versus Bowser fight, I think that Bowser is unfortunately too dumb to really find a way to beat Nathan, but alternatively, even if Nathan outsmarts Bowser, I don't know if he could inflict enough damage to Bowser to beat him unless he had access to items from the world of Mario. I think at best, Nathan Drake would be able to trick Bowser and escape, but it would come down to attrition and Bowser would win.
Oh boy.
All right. And then pal of the show, Jesse, tweeted at us on Twitter, and he said, Pokemon, also known as Pocket Monsters, Geralt equals Monster Hunter. I don't think I need to say anything more.
Yeah, Jesse gets it.
And so the winners of last week's bouts are Geralt and Nathan Drake. The Nintendo property's not doing so well.
Yeah, that's because they're too family friendly. They're not ready to fight.
Yeah.
All right, let me highlight these. Okay, so Bowser lost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see you, Bowser. And we're
Pikachu.
Pikachu lost. We're moving on with Drake. All right.
Yeah, some solid.
Cool. Which leads us to the main event for this week.
Does unfortunately.
All right, we got probably, I would argue, the closest possible matchup, unless if we had like Sub-Zero and Scorpion or something, but with Lara Croft versus Sam Fisher. Sam Fisher, of course, from the Splinter Cell franchise, stealth expert, and Lara Croft from the Tomb Raider franchise are, female Nathan Drake, basically. That'd probably be actually the closest matchup.
So I had this argument with John earlier that I got the characters that would be the most explaining because I don't think a lot of people remember who they are. You say Sam Fisher from Splinter Cell, but Splinter Cell hasn't been around or even remotely relevant for.
But I think if you showed anybody the you got the noise?
You mean the?
Yeah. If you showed people that with the three lights, I think they'd be like, "What is that? I know that thing. What is it?" So you're right, Nick. However, there's no shenanigans going on. This is a randomizer. I could have gotten Sam Fisher.
I know.
You chose the first.
I just
pick.
thought that was interesting because it's always the Sam Fisher versus Solid Snake. That used to be an argument people would make because those series.
Even though it's not much of an argument. But
no, not at all. I think you'd find. I mean, those games are good too. I know that.
Chaos Theory, or is it Chaos Theory or Black?
One of those. It has one of the best multiplayer modes because it's like you're the goons versus the operatives, and they got all the cool shit. And
got that good shit.
But the only one I played was the 360 one, and it's barely in my brain.
Yeah, I've never played any of them. It is a black hole in my gaming repertoire.
And all I remember is that you could ping like 4 guys and then open the door and you'd shoot them all at once. Like it would just automatically happen.
That was cool.
So you could peek through the door. What's it called? It's like it's in Battlefield too, and you just kind of like mark a guy. Anyway, I don't know. It's probably just
when
that.
you mark a guy.
Yeah, when you put a little indicator above their
I think
head.
it's when you mark a guy.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
I don't know. I'm sure every video game has a different word for it.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm used to Cyberpunk, and it's pinging.
Yeah.
They use the hack ping, and it changes everything. So.
Cyberpunk, it's so hot right now.
It
All
is.
right, I'm going to get my timers. Do you remember who went first last week? I feel like I did because I think you went first the week before.
Yeah, I think so.
So do you have a preference of Sam Fisher versus Lara first? Or do you have,
we can do that one.
You want to do that one first? Okay. Because the other one's not really much of a... I'm just kidding. We'll let you guys decide. All right. Okay, hold on. Let me get stopwatch. And nope, I'm going to do a timer instead so it actually yells at us because that's the smart thing to do. All right, I will go when you start talking.
All right, Sam Fisher. He's a former Navy SEAL and CIA operative, and he was chosen as the first agent of Third Echelon's Splinter Cell program. He has successfully completed so many covert operations that I think taking on one rich girl, traveling around the world, trying to get Instagram followers, and then steal loot from the natives. I think he could take her down in a heartbeat.
Natives.
And again, you heard the patented sound. He's a master of night vision. He's a master of close quarter combat. He used to be the one, like we mentioned, to go against Solid Snake. And if he can take on Solid Snake, he could easily handle Lara Croft.
All right, you good?
Yep, I'm good.
Boom. All right. Get my timer up here. All right, here we go. Lara Croft. All right, so Lara Croft versus Old Man Time is the matchup this week, folks. We got Lara Croft, who's a fresh 35 years old, against Sam Fisher. Is 68 in Breakpoint, Nick. He's an old man. His knees are not what they used to be, okay? So Lara's got the age advantage easily, right? Lara's only got to worry about one thing. We just got to fight in the daytime, and you're done. Like, what are you going to do with... You can't put on your night vision goggles. You're going to blind yourself. And Lara is, she's got the speed. She can outrun bears and velociraptors. Get this. Her combat speed is supersonic. I don't know if you knew that. She can react to bullets, dodge gunfire, which is probably just a video game thing, to be fair, but, we're going to include it anyway. And I think the one thing that we have to take into account with this matchup, Nick, that cannot be forgotten is the power of seduction. All right, Lara's gonna seduce the shit out of him. There's nothing he can do. He's gonna look at those triangular boobs and he's done. He's gonna go. He's gonna turn on his night vision goggles and.
At least his curiosity of how a woman has triangle boobs is gonna get the best of him.
All right.
I think it's time because you had to go. You went into. There's a website that. Yeah. Specifically talks about how characters would just stack as a fighter.
I was going to bring this up at the end of this segment, yeah. That we should probably outlaw it because it was too useful.
So when John is mentioning her outrunning velociraptors and bears, that's a direct quote from the site. And it was a fun time. The site's great. But when it rates someone's speed as supersonic, it's like, okay, come on. Yeah, even in the game world, she just runs.
Right. Well, and as we'll get to with the next matchup, Kratos is apparently faster than light. So, but yeah, no, it's like some wiki of versus battles, and it kind of ranks everybody and like all the different skills and things they've had in different games. Yeah. Like one of my favorite parts about Lara was she's wielded. Did you know she wielded Mjolnir in a game?
I believe it.
So she can pick up Mjolnir and shock people with lighting. So, but I thought that was a little too ridiculous, but she's always going to have the power of seduction.
It's true.
All right. And then for the other matchup, we have our boy.
Is she like the first video game babe? Like that would be on like covers of magazines back in the 90s?
Yes.
I can't think of, I wouldn't be able to think of
No, graphics didn't allow pre
Yeah.
PlayStation N64.
Yeah.
So like you had her, you had.
Well, you always had like the Street Fighter characters, I guess.
That's true.
And stuff like that.
That is true.
The fighting game characters.
And the ninja chicks from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I feel like Lara Croft was the first one that like kind of your parents would know who that is.
He's always alone in his bedroom with the magazine.
All right, and so for the second matchup today, guys, we got our boy Kratos from the God of War series, who needs no introduction, versus 90s legend Duke Nukem. All right, Nick, I am very curious what you're going to have for this one, but I'll go first, obviously. All right, so we're going to start the timer now. All right, I was thinking about just sitting here for a minute in silence because, like, this should be no contest.
God of War.
It should be no contest, but here's Kratos' kill list, Nick. Zeus, Hercules, Hades, Heimdall, the god of forethought. It doesn't matter if people know what's coming, he's going to kill them. Thor, Odin, we can talk about all that stuff. His strength is on par with Atlas, the guy that was holding up the world, right? The guy that can hold up the world, that's the level we're talking about. He is a former Spartan general. You cannot outmaneuver this guy. We're talking the Spartans. That's the top military thing in the world. Like, there's nothing higher than that. He's got Dropnir. He's got the Blades of Chaos. He's got the Leviathan Axe, not to mention all the magic he can wield. And as far as weaknesses for Kratos, there's only one thing that I've found, and he is weak to children. He just can't hurt children. So Duke Nukem is about as crass and horrible of a person as you can get. He's gonna look at him for 2 seconds and want to stamp his face in. Good luck, Duke.
Yes. Oh boy. So again, I got Duke Nukem, which John doesn't think I have to explain.
Yeah, hey, I'll give you a minute and a half if you want to spend the first 30 seconds explaining him.
No, but yeah, he's an interesting guy. Think of him as, I don't know.
Does this count? Are we going?
No, not yet.
Okay.
He's kind of a parody of action stars like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
And he quotes them too, of course. So
he's an Americanized Schwarzenegger who says "shake it, baby," and asks girls to, like, strippers are characters in his show, and you throw poop.
Well, that was in the most recent one. I don't
still
remember that in the old ones, but yeah, Duke Nukem 3D was kind of a watershed moment game for me because I was a kid and it was the game that you shouldn't play, and it played like old school Doom, and it was just it had strippers, it had just raunchy language, at the time that's corny now, but the kid, you're like, ooh, I shouldn't be playing this game.
The amount of time I would probably throw a weird $100 bill at a stripper and go shake it is probably embarrassing.
It makes my tummy feel silly.
Yeah.
So it was all, and it was a good playing version of those, but every other version of that series, when it's tried to do like 3D or the famous Duke Nukem Forever, it's been garbage. You know
what's really funny, though, is I have a lot of very fond memories of going to my dad's office when I was probably 4 or 5 and playing the 1991 like side-scrolling Duke Nukem. Like he for some reason had it on his work computer, and I would just sit there and play it. Like, it's great. I've actually would love to go back and play it. It's probably absolute dog shit, but it's just funny history I have with this series.
Right, because I think that's the Duke Nukem 3D is the only game they keep remaking and keep bringing back. Like, none of the other ones I don't think have ever come back.
No. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a list right now ranking the 10 best Duke Nukem games. Number 2 is Duke Nukem Time to Kill from '98. I don't know what that is, but yeah, it's saying when Duke Nukem at the time of its release was one of the most popular first-person shooter games in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, he had his moment in the sun.
Yeah. So there's the introduction. So yeah, he's got to take on the God of War. So I'm gonna do my best.
Yes, you will.
All right. We good?
Yep.
All right.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
Yeah, that's right, baby. Look how Kratos, Duke Nukem, the legendary American hero who has saved the planet Earth, the entire planet, not just for his own personal reasons like Kratos has, not for a revenge story. He has saved the entire Earth from various alien invasions multiple times. And he is looking at probably the strongest opponent in all of this Game Character Battle Royale. So it's going to be very hard for him. But what Duke Nukem has is an arsenal of weapons, and one of those weapons is called the Shrinker. And what the Shrinker would do is it would shrink them down, and they'd just be a little tiny ant on the screen, and Duke Nukem would walk over them and stomp them with his mighty foot. So, that's his best option to take down Kratos, and if he can hit him, he's got a chance.
God, it's so hard not to rebuttal during these. Yeah, but he'd still be stronger. If he's tiny, it doesn't matter.
Strict this from the record, but yes, if Duke Nukem went to step on a Kratos the size of an ant, Duke Nukem would throw him across, or Kratos would throw him across the room. So, But that's
fun,
stricken from the record.
Stricken from the record. Don't take that into consideration. All right, folks. Well, please give us your votes. We'll put up the posts as always, and it is now time to pick next week's contestants. All right, Nick. You want first or second?
I'll always go first.
Okay. Randomize. My favorite part of the... No, wait. You got Duke Nukem.
Oh, okay, great.
I thought I removed
He
it.
automatically won.
And you got... You get bad ones, dude. Sam Porter Bridges. From Death Stranding, Sam Porter Bridges, Norman Reedus.
Okay.
Versus... Dante from Devil May Cry.
It's not fair. I think this is rigged.
It's not another fair one. I want the fair ones. I want ones that actually, but it makes it fun.
Kojima games get into some weird shit. So
they do.
Sam Porter Bridges might have some fantastical abilities.
You can't kill him, right? Like he can come back. Like true. He's like a repatriate or whatever.
So I think when we look more into him as a character,
that's what makes this fun, right?
That he might be able to stand up against the devil.
The devil. All right, and for matchup number 2, Nick.
Okay.
Ooh, your boy, Solid Snake. Mm-hmm. You got him. There he is. All right, there's a fun one.
Oh boy.
Versus Bayonetta. Solid Snake versus... Man, I got Dante and Bayonetta?
Yeah.
What is that?
It'd be better if they faced each other. That'd be a perfect...
Yeah, that's about as even as you can be. All right, so Solid Snake versus Bayonetta and Dante versus Sam Porter Bridges. Classic matchups.
Yeah. All right, cool. So let's move on to some games we've been playing, and I wanted to bring the Callisto Protocol. This just came to Essential, so if you're at that base tier of PlayStation Plus subscription, you can get it for free as long as you have an active subscription. And we did talk about this game last year, so if you've been listening to us for a while, you are probably familiar with it. What this is a game from Striking Distance Studios. Glenn Schofield, the director of Dead Space, founded this studio, and this is their very first project. And right from the get-go, right from the trailers, this was going to be a spiritual successor to Dead Space. A lot of similar elements that I'll talk about later is what this game is. And unfortunately, that derivativeness did not help it. It is currently sitting at a 67 on OpenCritic. So that's not helping it at all. And a lot of people quote its similarities to Dead Space for the reasons why it's not as good. And I'm about probably, I'd say, halfway through the game at this point, and I'd have to agree with them. Yeah. Not from a narrative perspective, I don't even remember the main guy's name.
Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy. You play the role of... Oh, boy. I can't find it.
Wow, so prepared.
Sorry, I forgot I mentioned that.
Just busting balls.
It's Jacob. Yeah, I should have known that.
God, okay. I wish it was Jimmy.
You play the role of Jacob, a pilot who, is just carrying cargo between planets, and he's bringing it to this prison planet, but on the way, it is attacked by terrorists. The ship crashes.
I'm just picturing conventional terrorists.
The ship crashes on the planet, and he is taken into the prison, becomes a prisoner. He's injected with like a chip in the back of his neck, and then when he wakes up, all's gone to hell. Very similar to a Dead Space, is prisoners are running around, the place is on fire, and creatures are running about killing people on sight. And there are also security robots that are killing everyone on site. So there's a lot of things going on here. But you'll notice a lot of the similarities from the camera angle, the UI especially is it's 100% Dead Space. Like the all the menus kind of like appear in front of your character, just like they do in Dead Space, and the enemies pop out of vents, and a lot of similar just theming is all Dead Space. The story, the mystery of why, like, were they experimenting on these prisoners? Oh, there was this religious faction cult within the security guards and the staff of the prison. Oh, they're doing all these weird experiments. It's not everything's what it seems. It's all there, and it's really bumming me out.
Yeah.
Like, I really wish. And just the futuristic space setting, too, of course. Like, it's all these things just kind of are just like, couldn't we gone a little bit different here?
Right.
Like, could I be part of a special space force, like the Marine or something? And I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a storyteller, but it bums me out right from the get go. And then when you're drawing that comparison, the biggest weakness here is two things: no plasma cutter, no necromorphs. Those two things are what made Dead Space what it was. And, without those things, the combat really doesn't hold up. And kind of the big focus of this is kind of what they wanted to be the unique spin here is melee combat. So you kind of, every encounter you get, especially with like the base enemies, is like a punch-out game where they're swinging at you and you kind of hold the left trigger left to dodge, or you can hold it right. But if they swing again, you have to make sure you're holding in the opposite direction. So an enemy this will happen to you 100 times in the game. An enemy will run, swing at you once, hold right, swing at you again, hold left. You take a few swings at them. You get like a combo on them. Then they come at you again, same thing, and rinse and repeat.
Why?
Now, they do add some different mechanics. There are guns, so you can kind of like an old Western, you can hit a guy and then you do a quick draw and you can get a shot in on them. But this kind of like rinse and repeat, and the fact that the enemies wait for this exchange to happen. So you can be in a room with like 3 of them, and they'll just stand around, and
That just means you need to fight 3 guys.
Yeah, you're just fighting 3 guys in a row. Sometimes they will take a swing at you from behind, but it's not often. Like, it's usually right when I finish off that guy, I look behind me, and the other one's on top of me, and I just have to deal with them. So that's negative. One of the more positive things, it does lean a lot on stealth, which makes sense for a horror game, and you're kind of rewarded in stealth where you can do insta-kills. So if you get behind if you stealth your way through an encounter, you can essentially like Solid Snake them, or like in Cyberpunk, just choke everybody out, or in this you just stab them with a shiv and kill them instantly. So you're rewarded for that. And then the security robots are like lethal on sight, unless you can shoot them in the camera right away. So you are
shoot them in the camera.
Yeah, their heads are just giant cameras.
Yeah. It's funny. Before you said that, I knew exactly what I knew that's exactly what they were.
And so that kind of forces you into these stealth sections. So it's a good mix. It is very linear. Like, you go from the path the main path in a few areas. But it does lead you to some loot, and they have the the voice recordings that are so prominent in other games, including Dead Space. But for the most part, it is straightforward story. You're going from here to here, and then you'll get a cutscene every hour you've played or something. But it's a lot of Dead Space, a lot of a guy talking to you over on a communicator. Go turn this on. Go to this area. Go do this. Oh, you can't go with me this way, but you can go this way. You have to go underground through the sewers. Okay. It does have a giant water slide. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah, I remember that was the first part. I was like, what is going on? And it's got really violent, I think, in that.
Yeah,
part.
yeah. It's like
Well, the whole game is very violent.
But you have to dodge like pillars, and if you keep hitting pillars, you're taking damage, and eventually you'll have a gruesome death or spinning blades, but all while you're going down this insane water slide.
Yeah.
Which was a little fun mix up. I will say the game is very, very pretty.
Yeah.
Like, it is a gorgeous game, great use of the DualSense. I noticed this in Cyberpunk too, that the police recordings come through the DualSense microphone. Same this, all the communication over.
It's the one reason I wish I didn't play with headphones.
Yeah, there you go. Walkie-talkie is through the DualSense, and that's all implemented.
I like that stuff.
The hitting feels violent and stuff like that. So just great and all that. And the motion capture too. I believe they worked with Sony on this one.
They did.
It was the same studios.
Part of the reason why this game cost $160 million to make, which is kind of goes back to our earlier conversation about expenses.
Yeah, exactly. And the performances are all good. I mean, it's got Karen Fukuhara from The Boys, show John and I like, but also Josh Duhamel and Sam Witwer. A lot of great actors and performances in this. So
Probably another reason their budget was a little higher.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, for sure. But yeah, but because of the similarities to Dead Space and the combat and the enemy designs not even coming close to, this did come out before Dead Space Remake, but now even after Dead Space Remake, that's not good. That's not a good sign. In fact, it's kind of a bummer. Like EA, just give them Dead Space.
Yeah.
Let them do Dead Space. Like let them do Dead Space 4 or just reboot the series altogether. Like just.
Well, I feel like that's usually when these studios do remakes or remasters and stuff, it's usually to test the waters if a franchise is ready to come back or if people are into it. And I know the reception was critically and commercially was good for it, so I don't know if that was the intention behind making Dead Space, because I could see that also being just in the category of having enough of a legacy and people loving it so much back in the day that's like, yeah, we're just going to put it back out because it's going to sell. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they'd go back to 2, but I agree. I wish that we just get some more Dead Space.
Right, and just maybe make it a smaller project. Like it doesn't have to. Like these horror games don't have to be like 20 hours long. And I know if you're going to ask for 70, probably people will want you.
Well, and that was one of the problems with this game, right? It's like only 8 to 10, which is fine. Again, that's fine. But
I think it's
people,
15. I think because I think I'm just over halfway and I think I'm at 9.
Okay.
So.
All right,
but I'm going to see it through. I am actually, at least interested to do it, and it's fun. I don't know, like horror games are fun to play because initially you're scared because you don't know what to expect,
and you become desensitized.
Yeah, but you become desensitized, and it's just I don't know. I just have a fun time. It's like fucking with these things, these monsters coming at me, and just beating the shit out of them.
I mean, how long 2-Beat does have it listed at 10 hours for the main story, 11 and a half for main and extra. So.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if I should have looked at a platinum guide before this because it
sounds like it. Completion's 15.
Yeah,
so you probably went right there, but whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
You also don't want to hate platinum it, but all right. Well, I got a question for you then. So it sounds like obviously we knew this game was wearing its inspiration on its sleeve, but it seems like it. Would you agree that it pushed too far into the mimicking where it's like it's egregious? Yeah. Do you think that because Glenn Schofield was involved with the project that makes it feel a little bit worse, or it wouldn't affect how you feel that way? Because I know personally, if I knew that it was the Dead Space guy, I would maybe hope for some new innovations. I think like don't rely on your same bag of tricks.
Right.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I would say that, and I think that they thought that this melee combat was going to be the thing because. In a horror game, having the things come up close to you and being like engaged in them, and this kind of combat, it is like it's not only just visceral from you're beating the shit out of people with a stun baton, but at the same time it's like this guy's right on top of me. But
the reason we play games is fun, and is that as fun as throwing off a saw blade that spins in front of you and you can chop arms off with it.
Yeah, no.
It's not,
the weapon design, like I gotten another.
What's that called? The Ripper?
Yeah, the Ripper. But yeah, even I have not even the worst guns in Dead Space. I haven't even got a gun that came close to the end. They're just I have a shotgun. I have a smaller shotgun that's like a pistol, and then I have my just handgun.
Like the pistola from Uncharted, like that little, like you remember that?
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, it has like it only carries 2 in the case at a time, and it's like if they get up close. But
yeah, I gotta say that relegating what they did with the gunplay kind of feels stupid to me. Like you can only shoot. So can you only shoot when you're in that little window?
No, you can shoot. You can play it like a shooter, but the shooting something is off because the way you shoot is not very accurate.
Okay. Like, so it's like they almost intentionally handicapped it to steer you towards melee.
Yeah, and like I said, and to be scary. I think the game wouldn't be as scary if again I'm just one-shotting guys all the time. But it seems like because I can't get in an encounter and pick a guy off before he gets to me. Like so, I think like there's incentive to push for this melee combat, but. and then just having the pistol for weird smaller enemies that die in one shot anyway. But all the bigger enemies, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it and playing it. I feel like that game is definitely one of the more prominent examples of just like a what could have been type thing, where it's like, I can't remember a game that like got through previews and hyped up and people loved it as much as, well, maybe except for Redfall. When it came out, it was like, ugh. Like, because I remember picking that game up in the fantasy league and thinking like, oh, slam dunk, dude. Like, it was such a steal at the end of the year and nobody had it, and to get -3 points, like what?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I think like I said, there's a lot of good things here. I just think it's not flattering to be such a direct ripoff of Dead Space. And again, games are decided so far in advance. They probably had no idea Dead Space was coming back.
No, they got fucked. I mean, like it was a bad, bad way for them. But I think inevitably the downfall of this game will be how much they spent on it, because that's. I would be surprised if Striking Distance lasts through it. I think they're still technically a company, but they had to lay off some people.
Yeah, Glenn's gone.
Yeah, Glenn's gone. It cost so much money to make, and c'est la vie.
Yeah, again, these games they can't afford to fail. And,
right.
I don't think you can place a gamble on unless it has a big name attached to it, like a Resident Evil, a big budget on a horror game.
No.
Like who else could do it right now?
I mean,
do you think Silent Hill is going to make it? Silent Hill 2 remake?
I think Silent Hill 2 is going to be a bad. It's going to be a bad thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to be happy with that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like for a team to make a game in a horror space that's not Resident Evil, it'd have to be like fucking Naughty Dog, or like Naughty Dog's making a horror game, which they kind of did honestly with Last of Us. Like it's it's pretty horror-y, but like it'd have to be that level of a trusted developer. CD Projekt Red's making a horror game, which would be weird because they make open world. But yeah, I agree though. It's just it's such a niche genre
that's why I'm afraid for Alan Wake 2, man. I think like it has to hit a 90. I think just to have a chance of being break even. I think
it does. But what's encouraging is at least Control only cost $20 million to make. It was like one of the cheapest AAA games that have been made in probably the last 10 years. So assuming that Remedy can pull off something similar with that, I would imagine it's going to be a little bit cheaper at least.
Yeah, I think,
and I could see it having legs too,
Yeah, and I think I have a feeling from all the footage I've seen that it's kind of set in a kind of like the old house, just kind of like a set area, lots of small rooms, lots of you're going to probably go through the same area as Alan and Saga and stuff like that. So a lot of smart game development choices. So I'm hoping. I love Remedy. They make interesting games. So
yeah.
But that's it. I will probably finish it and probably pop off a quick review of my own.
Sure.
When I get through the entire thing. Maybe the end of the story just really blows me away.
It doesn't. Otherwise, we would know that.
It has a lot of DLC. It's like right when obviously since I'm getting the game for free, it's like on the front page, season pass, all this extra content they got. So
they just put it on. Obviously, you're playing it on Essential, so they got another bag of money there. But I imagine they're not expecting much more to come through.
Right. But again, it's October. I wanted to play a scary game
for sure,
and this conveniently came. So, all right, and then the next thing, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty. I promise this will be the last time I bring this game up.
Well, you need to review it at the end.
I beat it.
Oh, you did?
Well, yeah, we're gonna get into that. But this will be the last time I talk about it. We're gonna kind of sunset it, and then
I'll John plays it. And I'll just bring it right back.
As John plays it, of course he can bring it and talk about it. There's just so many interesting quests. Like that's all I want to hear is like, what quests have you done? Because I want you to get to certain.
And then I go, I don't know.
Yeah, he barely remembers any details of them. So I beat Phantom Liberty. According to the trophies, there are 4 different endings. I saw 2 of the endings for the DLC, and I saw the new ending for the base game that gets added because of the DLC. So, and I've done all the gigs, all the side quests. So I've seen a lot of Dogtown.
Sure.
And again, I'm just going to be repeating a lot of things that I said before last week. Is that this is obviously a 5 out of 5 for me. If anyone was following us on Twitter, they saw me tweet out how great the performances are in this game, and especially Idris Elba.
He's the man.
Yeah, man, is he good. And the mocap on him, and just like we get games like this is just incredible. I can't even fathom what a sequel to this game will look like.
Did you hear that report that they weren't like ironclad on if they're doing first person again?
Yeah, I did see that, which is funny because now
So
I'm having the opposite reaction. It's like, oh, well, you should go first person.
I'm sure
again.
they will. I would be shocked if they didn't. But yeah, the question still stands: like, what the fuck is the sequel to that game look like?
That or The Witcher. I mean, you got to follow-ups to 2 incredible games. Just from what stories do you tell? Obviously the visuals and the fidelity, and there'll be new systems in place, but good luck to them.
Yeah, it's a daunting thing to follow up on.
So I loved it. I think it's funny. Mission Impossible is exactly what this is.
Really?
Yeah, you even get the ability midway through the game to disguise yourself as someone else. Basically, you have a cybernetic implant that makes you look like other people, and then that plays not only in the main quest but a few side quests as well. So, so it's just Mission Impossible in Cyberpunk, and it's great.
This is one of those small moments. I wish I was a PC player because you put Tom Cruise's face on your character and you like play the theme song while you're driving through Night City.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, again, it's just everything is. Dogtown is a great area to add to the city. The characters, the gigs go to interesting places, as I mentioned last week. And just, a bunch of fun quests. And so, unless you got questions for me, that's my kind of piece on.
Well, yeah. So first and foremost, so I'm, again, I'm not bringing Cyberpunk today, but I am about 7 to 8 hours in. I'm loving it so far. Would you say I should just buy it, Phantom Liberty, so that when I get to that point of the story, I just go through it? Or do you think it's better to just go through the main story and buy it after?
The game is so large, and
in the way
I don't know where you'll be when you're able to hit the ending.
So wait, okay, easy enough.
Mentally, you might be like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I want something different.
I want to see this through. And not have this side story, because the base game is fine, like without it.
Yeah.
It does exist on its own. Even with the new ending it adds to the base game, I think you're better off just, getting all the way up to that final mission. And if you're like, man, I want to play more. I don't want it to end, and I want to see Idris Elba.
And I've already gotten the platinum.
Yeah, the platinum's rough. I don't know if you do that, but
no, I don't think so.
But I would say that is where I will say anyone who's starting the game over now to just do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I am like, I've shat talked Keanu Reeves on this podcast. He's even kind of winning me over. I'm really feeling it right now. It's just such a weird, like, cool mix of the vibes, the soundtrack, the abilities, the story. It's gorgeous. There's very few things to say negatively about Cyberpunk, and I mean, maybe it's a perfect place to leave it off on this podcast. It's just like, what a fucking turnaround. Like, that game. First off, I can't believe that game came out almost 3 years ago in its base form. It's crazy it's been out that long, but for CD Projekt Red to invest the effort that they did and to pull it off as well as they did, I think they just said that they spent an extra $125 million on this. Again, going back to our conversation on game costs, just to get it to this state, can't be applauded enough. It's going to be one of those historical, legendary turnaround things, probably, similar to No Man's Sky or Final Fantasy 14, things like that. It's just very impressive, and yeah, it's a very impressive game too. So yeah, I'm excited to keep trucking my way through it.
Yeah, and I tweeted this out. They released a documentary. It's just over an hour long about the development of the game. It kind of covers 4 employees the quest director, a guy that works on the lore, a level designer, and the head of the studio. The four of them kind of narrate it at different points of the game and how they, and I always love development documentaries because it puts a human face on people that make video games. Like actual humans invest a lot of their time into these creative projects
that we love so much. We have to have a podcast to talk about it.
Yeah, that, hit or miss or whatever, that. And it's just great. It's just great to see how they responded to, obviously and admitting, obviously, which they've done already, about how they fucked up big time, especially on PS4 and Xbox One versions of Cyberpunk, and how, and another thing about game development is the real star of this whole thing is this Powell Sasko. He's the quest director. He's kind of like, he's very much like, this is like his project. And right off the base, he's like, as a game developer, you only live long enough to ship maybe like 5 to 7 games.
Yeah,
like that's insane.
Yeah, man.
Like you'll be in the credits of 5 to 7 games. If they all ship. Because if they don't ship, then you're not in the credits at all.
Right.
And
or hyenas.
Yeah, exactly. And then watching, as they're ramping up Phantom Liberty, and it was shown at Summer Game Fest, of course. And it was buggy, right, at Summer Game Fest. And he's like, he realizes, like, they realize on a fresh install of the game on a brand new console that characters' faces aren't loading. So he's got to go through and play through the demo on these consoles, because that was another thing. Like, their focus was like, we want to show this running on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. Like, so there's no one coming in and be like, oh, you're not showing the other consoles. This is going to be Cyberpunk already. And when he found out that this was happening, like, he started crying in this documentary. Like,
really?
Like he was upset because
this
is 0 hour. I'm about to show my game, and we're still running into bugs.
Think about that, Nick. Think about our jobs, right? And you guys aren't going to know what they are, but like, our projects and things maybe exist on a monthly rotation, maybe, and it's not really that big of a deal, and nobody's going to see what we're doing and whatever.
Right.
But if you're putting your name on something, you're writing your credits, you're writing your future, and then for it to come out in that condition, I would cry. I'd fucking tear up.
Yeah. They talk about all the, because again, they're in the credits. People look them up and say shitty things to them because the internet's horrible.
Yeah.
And
all they're trying to do is make us happy.
Right,
That's all they
right.
want. I mean, they want money too, of course, but
right. And to say that people don't care, like, or they want to release buggy games, like that's not true at all.
Games developers just release games because you guys won't shut up about when they're going to come out.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's great. It's a lot of real talk from real people about an amazing turnaround. Of course, obviously, there's a happy ending to all this, So.
I do have another question because I've been experiencing it myself a little bit. How was the performance for Phantom Liberty? Because I've had a hard crash, and I've had to have to load a previous save due to a character getting stuck like above a stairwell.
I did. So you told me the story about your hard crash, and now I'm going to eliminate one factor: is my PS5 turns off randomly, which I talked about in this show. So like that would happen with this, and I don't think it's Cyberpunk's fault. It's just my PS5. But yeah, I had one hard crash, and I think I did have to go back for 2 times for missions being weird.
Okay. So, but you fixed it by just loading a previous save.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what I wanted to tell people too. Is like, if you've been thinking about playing this game, like, it's not perfect on a performance level, but I don't think anything's game breaking.
And the autosaves are so generous.
They're
like,
very good.
as my system was shutting down completely, like, I'd be shocked as to where my last, like, when I just go in the menu and hit continue, being like, I'm right here.
It honestly made me mad because I told you this, but there was a mission early on in the game where, because I've restarted this game 3 times now, I knew what the outcome was with a certain decision. And so I wanted to make the other decision, and I thought I was, but like the NPC character I was talking to took it in the opposite way. And I was like, no, I want to help you. And they drove away. And I was like, and I immediately exited out, closed it, opened it back up because I just wanted to see it. And they're like, she was just driving away. I'm like, what the fuck? So, but and I just accepted it and said, okay, well, this is my V. This is my playthrough, I guess.
Yep. So yeah, that's all good. And then, after I beat it too, and I was kind of like in this euphoric state, I was like going back and like just like looking like I can't think of a game story that was like from development, from announcement to where I am right now that's more wilder. Like I just can't think of like, from, obviously the hype of it being from the team that made The Witcher 3 to that initial reveal at the end of the Xbox showcase in 2018 to fucking Keanu Reeves reveal like that never needed to happen, but for some reason Keanu's in the game, to the crazy launch to where it got pulled from the PlayStation Store because it was so fucked up, to this whole redemption arc with it coming out at 1.6 last year and being finally playable on consoles. And then, this 2.0 update now where they just redid the whole perk system and all of these systems in the game and then released this killer expansion.
They rolled up their sleeves and said, "We got you, fam."
Yeah. And I was just like, wow. Yeah. Like, incredible.
The only one I can think of to maybe compare is like Last of Us 2, and even that wasn't to that degree. I remember when that game got revealed at PSX, it was a oh my God, they're doing it. And then like with the leaks that happened and how visceral that all fucking got with it, to how good the game turned out to be, and now Factions is having this whole thing. So I was like, that's the only thing I could maybe compare. But I agree, especially with how invested you were with The Witcher and that team, and how into the what were those called? Nightwire. Whatever those little things that they would put out to kind of show you the progress of the game. Like, yeah, you were hyped, man, and for it to come out, beat God of War Ragnarok for your game of the year, and then get a DLC that's fucking amazing too. Like, you're eating good.
Yeah. So it's like, again, I don't know when we'll see a sequel to this game. Again, as he mentioned, they've said as much. The director of Phantom Liberty has said he's going on to do the sequel, but they have since announced Witcher 4.
I was about to say, do you know if are there going to be people jumping right into that?
I don't know how they're
probably a little pre-production at least.
I mean, they are a large studio, But how can they do Witcher 4 and the sequel to this at the same time? I don't know.
I mean, if I were a betting man, I would say Witcher 4 fall of 2026.
That's what I was thinking. Like, if you're lucky,
if you're lucky, and then another 6-ish, 7-ish past that. Yeah. So, it's gonna be a minute, but
2030.
Yeah, but
2077.
Yeah. Yep. So,
but just wild, and just overall, Cyberpunk ranks as one of my greatest games of all time for sure. It's that fucking good.
Sweet. Sweet, dude.
Yep.
So sweet.
Yep. And that's all I got. And that's all we got.
Woo.
That's 4 things.
I think we're. I think even though we said it's up to 6 things, I'm pretty sure since we made the change, it's been 4 things every time.
Yeah.
Which is it's fine.
Yeah. No, and
we're still going
it
just
does
as long.
not, as you're listening to this, you can tell it has not affected the length of the show at all.
No, because we're more into the things we're talking about.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So, Sony sold 6 million PS5.
Yeah. All right. So we got some teases for next week. By our next show, Spider-Man 2 reviews will be out.
Oh, yeah. That's next Monday, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we will definitely be talking about that. I think it's too early to talk about Game of the Year awards. I really want to see where Alan Wake 2 lands.
Yeah, let's get through Spider-Man. Let's get through Alan Wake. And
I'm talking about the Game Awards, not our personal. I'm talking about the 6 games that... Yeah. Like will Starfield be in there? Will Diablo 4? These little high 80s. Yeah, these little high 80s games. Yeah. That there's quite a few. Sea of Stars, Dave the Diver. There's like so many games sitting in this high 80 mark. Are they going to be able to join Street Fighter, which is at a 92? Will that be there? But is there any chance any game will take down Baldur's Gate 3 or Zelda Tears of the Kingdom? Stuff like that. But I'm excited. The reviews will be out, so it'll be hype mode. Because maybe we'll do like a kind of like a prediction show just about Spider-Man 2, like kind of we did with God of War.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be, if there was as many PS5s out in the wild as there were PS4s, it would easily be the number 1 most sold game in the first 3 days for Sony ever.
Yeah.
And it might still get there. Like it's every There was a guy on our team who said he wasn't buying it. I was floored. I was like, "You're not getting it on release day?" Like what? Like Jack. I was like, "What? What?" So I think a lot of people would be that.
Yeah. So and again, is one of the biggest releases of the year. Obviously, a big release for Sony, and we're on its doorstep. Yeah. You know.
Yep. My son will not let me have my PlayStation.
Nope.
I got to get Cyberpunk done before. No.
Well, he's got to sleep sometime, and that's when you kick in. It's just how much of the game will be spoiled for you.
Watch me I'm gonna like get up early to play one day. He's like snuck down there in the middle of the night. Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, we'll see too. I've talked to you about this, but I want to maybe even try and get my son to review it for us. We'll see. I think that could be cute and funny and silly, but
yeah.
Because I like him. I think he's a cool kid.
He's got this loser dad, but
yeah, it's true.
Can't choose that.
Back 4 Blood's another game that died.
Oh yeah.
So.
All right. So yeah,
Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah, that was a slower death.
Crossfire X.
Yeah, we can do this all day. Captain America, I can do this all day.
Shut up.
So I think we're set on the game front. It'll be I don't know if I can do Baldur's Gate 3 before Spider-Man, but I should definitely make that.
You should try to get. You're on Act 3. I bet you can do it.
We'll see.
Yeah, it depends on how motivated you are.
And I definitely going to finish Callisto Protocol. So and then we didn't even talk. We're not going to talk about it, but PlayStation Plus extra games are leaked, and it's like Alien Isolation's on there, and I never played that game.
Yep.
And I was like, oh,
too many games, Nick. I installed. I haven't played it, so don't freak out at me yet. I installed Sekiro on my PlayStation 5 over the weekend because I'm like, I never beat this. I want to play it. Not gonna happen.
Yeah.
But, it sucks. It fucking sucks. I installed Returnal because I was like, I'm gonna get that platinum. I'm gonna fucking get that platinum. You piece of shit. And my son wanted to play Spyro, so I installed that. Now he's addicted to Neon White, so we're playing. It's like, God damn it. So, alas,
we need a hyperbolic time chamber
for
video games.
First world problems.
Yeah. So, all right. So the song we're leaving you on, again, we're gonna, this will probably be the last time Cyberpunk's featured. John will bring it, but it won't be the same. I'm saying goodbye. So it's gonna be a Phantom Liberty song called Phantom Liberty. I'm sorry, I'm gonna butcher the name. David Paciadlo.
I don't know. Oh yeah, Podsiadlo. Yeah, you got it. I would say it's probably David, but because in Poland W's are V's.
Oh, okay,
But
there you go,
that's
David.
fine.
Who actually,
David.
who if you look this guy up, he does make a cameo in Phantom Liberty. He is a character.
Oh, he does like the thing from the hurdy-gurdy guy from God of War.
Yeah.
Right? He shows up in the game.
Yeah. So you'll notice him. In fact, since I had known what he looked like before, when he showed up in the quest, I was like, oh, hey, it's that guy peeking at me through a door. But so that song, again, another vocal
He's like
song.
30 years old. Shut up.
You don't want to be a accomplished Polish singer?
Dude, I would love to. That's what I'm saying. I'm 34 and I'm not an accomplished Polish singer yet, so gotta figure that out.
So enjoy the song. It's great. Again, we featured a lot of songs with vocals in it. Blood Upon the Snow is a favorite of ours from God of War, and this is another great song. So enjoy the song, and we will be back next week with Up to 6 Things. Bye, guys.
See ya.
Wires and chains starting to fade. It feels like a game you have to play. found out treasures are always lost. Pleasures are lost.